Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Brahmanandam Param Sukhadam Kevalam Jnana Murtim Dvandvatitam Gagana Sadrisham Tattvamasya Laksham Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadhi Sakshi Bhutam Bhavatitam Trigunarahitam Sadgurum Tam Namami. Om. Adorations to Sadguru, who is Brahman, the giver of supreme bliss, embodiment of pure consciousness, one without a second, vast as the ether, infinite, eternal, beyond the three gunas and their modifications, the supreme preceptor. Yoga Vasistha in Upashama Prakarana, section 14, according to our publications. This is the volume 3 of Yoga Vasistha, old publication. I will begin with a quotation from the Upashama Prakarana, the original verse. Must realize the entire Yoga Vasistha is the greatest expression of literary talent and poetic art. But because of its serious topic, it didn't go into as much fame as Shakespeare's. Sarvatita padalambi purnendu shishirashaya nodvegi na chatushtatma sansare na vasidati. Sarvatita padalambi, he who rests in the bliss of the transcendental Brahman. Sarva atit, complete transcendental. Purnendu, whose heart enjoys the nectarine coolness of the full moon. Shishirashaya. Nodvegi, who is never agitated. Natatushtatma, and who is not depressed in any condition presented by the life, by the world. Sansare na vasidati. Such a person does not suffer from the miseries of this world. In section 14, insight into process of enlightenment, insight into negating the mind. All experiences are in and through the mind. All your journey from bondage to release is in and through your mind. But throw up the mind itself. But that's the goal of life. And it's not as strange as it appears to be, because every day nature leads you to that state. Nature brings you by your hand, puts you on the couch, on your bed, slaps you a little. reminds you you don't have to be in and through the mind. Out of the mind. Out of the world of time, space, causation. And so says, Mummy, I will do that. I'm joking. But then comes back again, and the same problem continues. But the mummy has tremendous patience. Prakriti has tremendous patience. So everyone is led to sleep, the whole world moves away. And it is not a matter of any despair or frustration, but to wake up and listen to the breaking of the news. A plane somewhere far away crashed and 100 people died. Now it affects your whole personality. In sleep, the entire world moved away. It didn't affect your personality. And now you get vexed. And if you don't get a news that shakes your personality, you feel your day is boring. With that, let's move on with the story, with the teaching. Sri Vasishtha continued, O Rama, it is impossible to instruct the dull-witted. Nature has given all that. But it's still to tell a person that there is a state within yourself, the real you, is not affected by anything. Why? You have the experience in your deep sleep. Everything moves away. And you are not affected. Therefore, shouldn't you start your mind to work? Who is me? Who am I? If that does not create that, activate that vichar movement, what will you say to that mind, dull wit? If the mind still continues to look for permanency in this world, want to make the history a hysterical project. So, it is impossible to instruct the dull-witted. For he who refuses to open his eyes to a beautiful scene of nature, all words of instruction become ineffective. Vasishtha gives an illustration. The glory of God manifests everywhere. But he who refuses to open the door, get out of the blankets, walk out and see the sun rise, and see the tremendous display of colors. Even the greatest of artists can never do that. And he who refuses to do that, what can you do about it? All words of instruction become ineffective. For he who is drunk with the intoxicating liquor of illusion, bhranti, and who is unable to keep his senses under control. Again, no matter how unsettled you are, your senses are foxy. They are horses in this chariot. So, If you are being driven by the chariot and you yourself became drunk, then who takes the chariot? The horses. But they are not drunk. They are drunk. They are active. They are happy. More happy. Nobody is after them. Who would try to enlighten a dead body by telling it a thousand spiritual stories and parables? Who would play a beautiful tune on a flute to a nasty buffalo? This is rasa of the Yoga Vasistha. Trying to convert the buffalo into a good musician. Instructing a person who refuses to be enlightened, he is very similar. O Rama, he who does not endeavor to master his essentially dumb and blind mind, he is a dull-witted person. When wisdom unfolds, one realizes that the mind has always been conquered by the self. The question of conquering the mind itself is illusion created by the mind. To understand it, think of a cloud. What's the substance behind the cloud? The cloud is just vapor, clinging to dust, particles of matter, subtle particles. Doesn't have its solid reality. And as the moisture goes on moving away, the cloud, so in order to kill a cloud, what you do? Allow the rays of the sun pass through it. And when the cloud is killed, where do you see it? Lying down, dead. Countless clouds, but they all go away. Where did they go? Leaving no trace behind. Same is mind. Countless shows are projected over the screen. All shows, where do they go away? You don't have to, in order to discover the screen, you don't have to kill show after show. So that point has to be understood. The highest attainment is a revelation. It is not attainment the way you think of it. Everything that you attain in the world, immediately your hands straighten up, your muscles tighten up. You have to exert. But for being quiet, for removing your mental agitation, you don't have to do that. In the beginning, you are told you should cultivate virtues. But as long as you think you have to cultivate it, you are in the kindergarten. The moment you begin to discover who am I, the moment you discover you are the sun, all illuminations belong to the sun automatically. However, in the early stage, mind has to be focused on cultivating virtues in different levels. But cultivating requires a deeper understanding. If your virtue is making you more egoistically strong, inflating your ego, how virtuous have I become? All these people lose their temper, I don't. If that type of ego has developed, that's not real virtue. Your virtue will take you to heavenly world, Swarga, but not liberation. But Swarga is not the goal of human beings. Swarga I'm talking about not the heaven, the astral state. Having no existence without the self, talking about the world you experience. This world has no existence. If you take the self away, all your cinema show has no existence if you take the screen away. The screen is giving reality, kind of an appearance of reality to every projection. Pure consciousness, the absolute reality called Chaitanya, called Brahman. That Brahman is the only reality. Mind is creating drama, cinema. Mind is creating the illusion of the world process. Three things are in the realm of illusion: mind, jiva, soul, jagat, the world. How can there be anything other than the self? To also understand it if you're moving towards maturity. The scriptures to match up with human mind, because sometimes you give the highest thing to the mind and mind just can't accept it. So using a decisive, a kind of a special language, the scriptures say, Brahman was alone. Sakamyata. She has developed the will, may I become more than one. That is an allegorical statement to help your mind to handle what we are going to teach. But if you are wise and in a higher level, anyone who says that Brahman is full, but she became bored with his fullness, and created the world. Eko ham bahusyama. May I become many. If you are intelligent, say, how can that ever happen? If you are full, if you are absolutely contented, perfect, that how can ever you develop the idea of entering into a world of multiplicity? All this seems like a difficult project. But each time when you go to bed, you are one. And without your saying, I'm bored, I'm one, let me be many. You go into your dream world. The reality, you never went into your dream. Your entire dream world is illusion. You have to wake up and illusion goes away. Same way, the entire world process has no reality in itself. The idea that souls, different souls are experiencing the world in different ways. Even the souls themselves are not separate individual realities. Think of the reflected suns. They give you the illusion that each jar that contains water, and water is in different conditions. Therefore, reflections of the sun, in one jar it is joyous, in another jar it is talking to the fish, in another jar it is circling, in another jar 50% light is gone because it's the muddy water, and so forth. Reflected suns are countless, going through turmoil. Now, if the project is to be taken up by a reflected sun to study this whole turmoil, if he becomes the journalist, now, what a world he is going to discover. So that's the predicament of what we call world, Jagat. If there is something other than the self, and the self is pure consciousness, then it is bound to be devoid of consciousness. If you really use up the mathematics now, Brahman is pure consciousness. And you follow the writings, from Brahman comes the world. Now, is the world separate from consciousness? Now, if you say it is, because it's all Brahman, the things would be so easy. Since all the problem, all the misery goes on, so there is something other than Brahman. But now come to mathematics. What can be something other than consciousness? Other than consciousness will be inert. And even that inert will not exist, because how will you know that it is inert? You need consciousness. So the existence of anything other than consciousness is absolute impossibility. The idea that there is inert matter other than the self is erroneous, because without consciousness, matter cannot be known to exist. And whatever cannot be known to exist cannot exist. Therefore, the self alone exists. Since there is nothing but the self, nothing can cause misery. Think of being frightened by snake on the rope. And think of a state where you suddenly realize that the snake is not there at all. Then who caused you all the misery? And is there reason to be miserable? That question doesn't arise. Due to ignorance, people are afflicted with various forms of sorrow and grief. Junkies and the dull-witted have been born to suffer from self-created misery. Sages didn't have courtesy. This world abounds with suffering, led by ignorance and driven by sinful karmas. Numerous souls lead themselves to embodiments of worms and insects and are destroyed by the thousands daily. This is a simple understanding. All this is Brahman. But then you come to a stage of noticing jivas, countless souls. Each soul is Brahman. But then it has entered into countless embodiments. For majority of people, religious teacher doesn't direct your mind about animals, etc. They keep your mind on human beings. But human beings themselves are millions of types of human beings. And through ages, countless human beings. And each human being has a different personality, different experience, different problem. But if your mind is further open, you must realize all jivas are, behind them there is soul. Anything that is conscious being, inert animals, birds, and that soul, in the process of spiritual evolution, can adopt any embodiment, human embodiment, come back to deer embodiment, come back to some other embodiment, and go back to human embodiment. Just like you go to a foreign land and choose to enter into any residence, a residence that is very old style, 16th century, or a residence that is very advanced. Having come to a residence that is very progressive, but unable to pay the money for it, go back to the residence. So, souls are not studied on the basis of external embodiments. And then ultimately, even the souls are reflected suns. The reflected suns ultimately are not realities. Whatever reflected sun is able to express is coming from the sun. Sun is the reality behind it. No one needs to grieve for countless jivas, countless embodied souls. They are dying day by day. Day by day, thousands of animals are butchered. They're delicious. Numerous animals are killed in the forest by beasts that prey upon them, showing the world, predicament of the world of mortality, the world that is being destroyed every moment. Your bodies are constantly playing the same role. You are not the same one that we were yesterday. And not a single atom or cell within you is the same as you were born, or even 9 or 10 years back. Your whole personality has undergone a change, complete change, for a certain duration after. Science will tell you better where after 9 years or 10 years or whatever. But the fact is you are undergoing tremendous change. You are not the same. But you don't look for your previous body. Where is it? At least to give some Tilanjali. Departed body, you give rituals. Your body has departed many times. But all that you do is celebrate your birthday. Even in the ocean, small fishes are eaten by larger ones. And these in turn are killed by still larger aquatic creatures. O Rama, behold how a little mosquito feeds upon a living particle. In turn, mosquito is eaten up by a spider. This is a simple way of describing how a spiritually sensitive mind looks at the world and thereby learns the lesson of vairagya, dispassion. That's how Buddha developed vairagya. You read his story. In the garden, he started seeing how one little creature was taken by another. And while the other creature is taking it, another creature grabbed it. Buddha said, enough. I will not be in this world. The same type of story, same description. How a little mosquito feeds upon a living particle, in turn eaten by spider. Spider in turn is eaten by a frog, and the frog by a snake. And the snake is killed by a mongoose, and mongoose by a cat, and cat by a dog. Dog in turn is hunted down by a bear. The bear is overpowered and killed by a tiger. The tiger is overcome and killed by a lion. Then even the lion is killed by the forces of nature. forces of nature which are controlled by divinities, little gods. These divinities in turn are overcome by ignorance and enter into the world of embodiments. Thus, until liberation is attained, the process of eating and being eaten continues uninterruptedly. Therefore, O Rama, endeavor to negate the mind, which in reality is non-existent. Allow to work with your mind, lead your mind to samadhi, enlighten your mind. You are the knower of the self, and therefore you know how the mind has come to exist due to various sankalpas. Sankalpas are thoughts, various unfulfilled desires that create a subtle sense of wish, which you don't know all of it, but every unfulfilled desire is waiting to be fulfilled. That state is called sankalpa. Mind, like a cloud, is a bundle of sankalpas. If those sankalpas are moved or fulfilled, not the way people fulfill their desire, we are talking about fulfillment through enlightenment, then the cloud is not there. Mind has no reality. Even in your dream, your mind becomes paralyzed. If these sankalpas are negated, the mind is automatically negated. When you understand the illusoriness of all desires, the mind is bound to disperse like the cloud in the blue sky. But when you read this, you must understand this is to help your deeper understanding. It is not to help you from not cooking your food. All practical realities will stay, because you are in the practical world, you are not what you are studying as the absolute reality. Absolute reality requires your whole life process to undergo a change through integral yoga. But the more you understand the highest level, better you are in your integral practice. But having read this, those who develop the idea, let me just turn away from the world, go into a cave, find an ashram where now no duty is given, just a room for meditation. So that's a kind of a distorted concept of spiritual movement. That's an error. As long as you desire and depend upon the objects of the world, so long you will be dominated by the mind. Your desire comes in different stages. Desire in a broad sense, called eshana. Everyone has three types of desire. Putreshana, you want to be remembered by your progeny. sons, grandsons, and so forth. Vitteshana, you want to acquire a lot of wealth. Wealth doesn't always mean money, but all type of resources. And lokeshana, you want to be famous, go viral. All these ashanas are different expressions of desire. And when desire goes on fire, it becomes trishna, craving. When desire becomes intensive, it's called craving. Trishna. All these three ashanas put together. And as long as this Ashana movement goes on, you are in bondage. As long as your soul is gripped by Krishna, Putreshana, Lokeshana, Vitteshana, as long as the soul is gripped by the illusion of finding great stability, happiness, glory in this world with a physical, through a physical, mental, physical complex. As long as you are working in that direction, you must realize you are extremely immature, stupid. Bandha buddhi. Dull wit. Buffalo headed. The sense of ego constitutes the inner world process, while the sense of reality in the objects constitutes the external world. The inner world is characterized by aham. I am the body. You identified with body. So where are you? Here am I. Here am I. And the world around you, you become aware of that world when your finger goes after, this is mine. This person is related to me. This object is my possession. If it is not, I'm going to get it. Aham and idam, these two illusions have gone into turmoil. When aham goes after idam, it is mayhem. In order to fulfill your I, you go after so many objects, so many people, that's mayhem. How is this mayhem corrected? Soham hamsa. Aham to be recognized as that Brahman. That Brahman I am. And hamsa, Soham becomes turned around, same Soham. Soham is that I am. Hamsa, I am that. Your aham and idam become one and the same. I am idam, idam is I. When you come to that stage, mayhem has stopped. And you realize you are Brahman. O Rama, I abide in this self by renouncing the taster as well as the tasted, and become immersed in the taste itself. We use the three terms, Jnata, Jnaya, and Jnana. Jnana, Jnata means knower. I am the knower. You are constantly trying to know and asserting this I know. Jnaya, objects or contents that are to be known. That Jnaya, the world is filled with so many things, and you are the Jnata. Dump them both, Jnata and Jnaya. Drown them in the ocean of Jnana. Pure awareness without Jnata and Jnaya is absolute Jnana. Prajnanam Brahma. Brahman is pure awareness. Not awareness broken up into knower and then known. But awareness that has sucked up knower and known forever. Led by ignorance, it is Chit. Chit is pure awareness that has become involved in objectivity. Chit has become Chitta. Sanskrit letter Chit. Just TA to be added becomes Chitta. Chit that has taken tea. Deluded by the mind, this pure awareness, Chit, conceives of the erroneous notion. Now here also you have to understand a tricky statement. Through the mental delusion, you come to develop the idea that the Chit has gone into illusion. The interpretation of Chit being deluded, Chit has taken the tea. That's coming from your mind. It's Chitta that is pointing to the fallacy in Chit. It's called sympathetic fallacy. Pathetic fallacy. Led by this erroneous notion, one develops this illusion, I am different from the self. Then the impressions of difference and duality in turn give rise to intensification of the mind. Now, the more you deal with duality, why did Brahman create the world? Now you come into many things, many factors. Brahman uses Prakriti. And how is Prakriti related to Brahman? And then all the differentiations, all this I'm not saying they are of no importance, they are very important. But I'm talking about the transcendental level. The sun is perfectly simple, shining. But when you are dealing with reflected suns or diffused light of the sun, now it has multi-aspected problems. And when you turn towards multiplicity, there is no end to it. This is given by parable, the dog in a barber shop. The old type barber shop used to have parallel mirrors. And seeing the master of the shop has gone away, a dog sneaks into the barber shop with the idea that he is alone and he has mastered the whole place. But to his great surprise, he looks in the mirror. And the more he looks, the more fearsome he looks. And the more fearsome, he thinks the other one is the one that is trying to frighten him. Turns his head this way, it's parallel mirror. He has jumped from there to there. Raises his head, he sees reflection within reflection. He came there. First he discovered just one little dog reflecting, and now countless dogs. Unimaginable. There's no end to it. That's how the aham has gone into mayhem. O Rama, your inner awareness of being one with the self is veiled by the illusory mental projections of being an individual consisting of body, mind, and senses. When these projections are negated through the negation of the chitta, the self alone remains. The negation of chitta is conducive to increasing joy and bliss. The more you understand, just like the more you understand that dream is your dream, it is not your reality. No matter how things happen in your dream, you are relaxed. Similarly, the more you develop spiritual enlightenment, the process is progressive. As you are moving towards it, the world will not be as real as you thought it were. Every little thing bothered you. Become little mature, they don't bother you. Simple illustration. Children can't live without toys, but grow up a little, the toys are there, but same relation is not there. So as Vairagya goes on developing and Viveka goes on developing, the world is there, but it has no bearing upon you. You remain untouched. And then finally you come to realize when the mind itself moves away, the world is being perceived by your nervous system. All the lots of news and lots of data that you study through Google and through your iPad, they are non-existent. You may say, oh, they do exist, but they're not existing in your bed or in your office. So the more you understand, the world you are looking at is an appearance, is a cinema show. No matter how much you see a terrible story, nothing is happening. The more you understand it, greater is your freedom from depending upon the world or the world for your happiness. And then you realize your happiness, you don't look for it. Even when you found objects and made you happy, happiness came from you, not from the object. So therefore, greater degree of vairagya, greater is your inner joy. And with this ends section 14, and we will enter into section 15 tomorrow. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukmiva Bandhanan Mrityor Mukshiyamamritat Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kashchid Dukha Bhag Bhavet Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityor Ma Mritam Gamaya Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Hari Om.